Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 12th, 2017 meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board. Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera? Here. Mr. Bolano?
Here.
Mr. Thomason?
Present.
5 present.
Okay. Would you all please stand? Mr. D'Alessandro, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So this evening we begin our agenda meeting at approximately 5:40 p.m. And at approximately 6:40 p.m. we entered an executive session with a motion by myself and member Christou, where we all voted in favor to enter executive session at about 6:40 p.m. To discuss two employee matters, employee number 0412-2017A and number 0412-2017B. At approximately 6:56 p.m., with a motion by member Christou and seconded by member Larmore, we exited executive session. And then at approximately 6:57 p.m., with a motion by member Christou and seconded by member Bolano, we exited our agenda meeting and all voting aye in favor of doing so. Just want to bring you all up to date on that, what we did there. So we now move into the public comment privilege of the floor. Ms. Marco.
Lori Albright?
Ms. Albright, would you just give us your name and your address for the record, please?
Lori Albright, I live at 8 Peter Drive. I'm here about the Whispering Pines Senior Community Project. I've heard that Keter Drive is going to be attached to it as an emergency access road.
Emergency access only, correct.
Is it going to be used as a construction road?
No.
So it would only be for like a fire, ambulance?
That's correct. That's correct. Only there. There'll be, all the construction activity will be coming off of Helderberg Avenue,
Okay.
down by where Whispering Pines is.
And when I look down the street, am I going to see football stadium lights?
No. I can tell you that, no, you won't see football stadium lights. And when it comes to the lighting and other, I guess I want to say more details, the planning commission would be putting, if you will, those limitations in place along with the, at their meetings along with the developer. So I don't see that type of development happening there. You won't have that. What, have you seen a plan of the whole development or no? Have you seen a plan of what they're proposed?
I've seen bits and pieces.
You've seen bits and pieces, okay. If you want to stay for the meeting, I'd be happy to give you my copy of everything that I have so that you could take it home and look it over and then just bring it back to me whenever you want, over the next few days, next week or whatever. But this way you can maybe familiarize a little bit more rather than just trying to have images in your mind. Because that's what I do. I have to actually see things. I don't know if people like that, but I can't just go with concepts. So I have to see what's going to be done. So I'd be happy to give that information to you.
I was most concerned about the traffic, if it's not going to be a regular access road.
No, it is not. And more importantly, we did have a meeting earlier today about traffic with both the town designated engineer, Department of Public Works staff, and the traffic engineer that the developer hired. And there are really, and I don't want to say it other than this, there are no marked changes to traffic, particularly at the intersections further out. So I think that they've come up with a really good plan for that area for this type of project. So, and that information will be shared with everyone at the Planning Commission meeting next week.
Which is also a public meeting,
Yeah.
which you're more than welcome to go and ask questions to as well.
And have you been on our town website at all to see any of the information there? There's also planning board minutes and other documentation that's attached to all of the planning board agendas and again, subsequent to the meetings actually being held, there are minutes there that are detailed. And you can see who the people are, their names are there. So if you have other questions that are related to the project, you could call specific people down at our Department of Public Works, or you could go through my office here, it'd be fine.
Do you have an expected start date for the project?
Not, I want to say expected. What they're looking for is probably the fall to really begin a lot of work there. over the summer. If they were able to get approvals quick enough, I think they want to start on really grooming, and I don't want to speak for them, but they've talked about grooming and redoing, if you will, the golf course, because the 9 holes of the golf course will be there along the thruway. They're going to build a new clubhouse there and a bunch of other amenities, if you will, to that facility. So, but let me give you those details so you can actually see them for yourself. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrea Capola.
Hi, my name is Andrea Capola from 625 River Road. I serve on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee or Commission, and I would like to report that we are participating in the Canals Clean Sweep on Earth Day, which is this year falls on a Saturday, which is the 22nd of April. And we're going to meet at the Kiwanis Boat Launch. And if anybody would like to help clean up their environment with litter and trash, and we're inviting anybody who'd like to participate to come at 9 o'clock to the Kiwanis Boat Launch. There'll be coffee and some refreshments available, and if you get there early enough, there's a t-shirt for you. I also serve on the Rotterdam Conservation Advisory Council, and I'd like to report that I went to the Invasive Species Conference seminar at the Schenectady Community College, and I'd like to get you aware and prepared that we need to come on board with this. One of our members, Kathy Fisher, has written for a grant application, for a grant to get some monies for the tree inventory to see if we have any ash borers or the woody something they're all nasty. Invasive species can come in. It could be a plant, it could be an insect, it could be an animal, and they adapt to everything. So they could come in and they could get even in our neighborhoods, which we have to prepare for and take inventory. So if we start now, we had a lot of presenters. We had like 3 or 4 presenters, and what they tried to push was any monies that are spent now will be small and easy to manage. As time goes on, as the invasive species plant themselves, the monies will exponentially become greater that you need to get, to eradicate the species. I think that's it. Anyway, if you're available on the 22nd, please come to help us clean. And also I'd like to report that on May 20th, the Central Park Greenhouse will have its annual plant sale. Thank you.
Ms. Coppola, if you don't mind, could you call the supervisor's office tomorrow, make sure they put the Kiwanis Park thing on the boat launch date on the website, on the town website, or is it already there?
I think it's coming. I think there was a correction that needed to be,
Okay.
or we needed to check.
We can follow up on that.
We did at a prior meeting pass a resolution to be included in that grant
We can't hear you, Mr.
Oh,
Supervisor.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me better now? Okay. We did in a prior
Yes,
meeting.
I understand.
Okay,
I think it was applied for. The whole thing is,
Right.
the criteria was a little
Gotcha.
lacking. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But, and it's under review. It should be,
Kathy will be bringing that up probably at a future.
I have a date of
meeting
May
for you.
1st.
Okay. All right, well, bring us up to speed on that.
I hope we
after
get it.
Yeah, I think we will. So we'll
I'm
see.
hoping, because
Yeah.
it's something that if we can prepare for it now, the taxpayer won't feel it years from now, years. That's my main point. It's the money that we can catch it now, be better now than to spend lots and lots of monies later. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Terry Fox.
Hi, Gary Fox, 2185 Lynn Street in Rotterdam, new resident of Rotterdam. I know you're not the right people to talk about this, but I'm a senior citizen, retired on Social Security. Monday, opened up my mail from Time Warner Cable, which is a monopoly, and everybody knows. My television went up 30%. My telephone went up over 100%. Senior citizens can't do this. It's a monopoly. Now I'm in a situation, do I get rid of my phone? Obviously not. For security reasons and everything else, you have to have a phone, obviously. I'm trying to get rid of, make arrangements for the television. There's no FiOS in this area, so my only other alternative is satellite. Seeing that this is a monopoly, I believe that this body here should have some say in a monopoly that's running in the town of Rotterdam. I don't know if Rotterdam has done this. I do know that the city of Schenectady actually signs a contract with who comes in and who comes out. I'm sure, I don't know for a fact, but I'm sure Rotterdam probably has some type of a contract with, now it's Spectrum. That was a change. When it went from Time Warner to Spectrum, maybe I can't afford anything anymore, I don't know. But I appreciate you at least listening. I'm not sure what you can do other than maybe next time there's a contract.
Mr. Fox, on that note, I actually had a conversation with the supervisor today about that contract. I have also been trying very diligently to get to somebody at Verizon to beg them to bring FiOS into Rotterdam. We seem to be running into a brick wall. It is a monopoly not by our choice. We would love to bring FiOS in.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I live on Lynn Street, you're putting in that big development where the old Price Chopper used to be. That may be an opening to allow FiOS to come in to just that community. And what I mean by the community, the apartments and the condos that are going in there. Possibly if they run their fiber optic cable down to there, and they got a possibility of picking up another 60,000 users, maybe they'll just continue it. But if you can make a deal for that new community, that's going to be going in there shortly, maybe a start.
There's a, without going into a lot of detail, and what I mean by that is that I don't have all the details right now, but there's a complex set of circumstances in New York State, whereby which, between the state of New York and then what power that we have on the local side to really entice a utility to come in of some kind is limited, okay? So we know that Verizon and/or all these other companies that are out there, as they continue to merge and do other things, they're hopefully in the near term. Well, I should say this: in the near term, there's probably no direct solution. In the future, though, I believe that with the changes in technology that we are having, at some point, you may see that even fiber optic cable is not necessary. In other words, they could put up antenna type. How should I say this? Just antennas up to be able to capture enough signal, just like you would with DirecTV, to bring in enough bandwidth. So those things are all being worked on. The biggest problem that we have when you go around town, you look at where the utilities are and how they're done. Take National Grid or even for our own water, sewer, etc. We're in a limited space. So if you're a new utility, you want to come into town, guess what? You've got to try to pick up somewhere on that limited space to do it. It's running the lines under the ground or above ground. That's why it's somewhat cost prohibitive, I think, for companies like Verizon to just step in here. We did have a discussion earlier today with our town attorney, Evan and I, to talk about the contract that currently is in place, which is really a leftover contract. It expired some time ago. So we have that to deal with, contend with now with the new cable company. And as we go through this process, we would be involving the Public Service Commission again. When I served prior, I was speaking with the Public Service Commission and at that time Time Warner to come up with some deeper resolution to not really have a sole source contract.
Well,
so
obviously Time Warner wouldn't want that.
Correct, and then I wasn't supervisor anymore, so that stopped. So anyway, we're on it. I just can't give you a direct timetable, but if you don't mind, I'll call on you. If you give us your name and address, so I'll let you know. What we have going on. At some point, hopefully, again, the technology will be cheap enough for them to just want to come in here and do it everywhere and do something in a way that doesn't involve wiring.
Just one more thing. Spectrum, and I'm sure most people see their ads and everything, that they say there's no contracts anymore. I don't know what's gonna happen next month. Like I say, my television went up 30%, my phone went up over 100% in 1 month when they took over, and with no contracts, they can go and do it again. I'm sure they will at some point in time. But thank you very much, I appreciate you listening.
Well, I appreciate you coming. Thank you very much.
Marie Lucy?
Hello, my name is Marie Liuzzi. I live at 1264 Main Street. The reason I came tonight was to kind of, I don't really know how to say this, we have a problem down in the junction with a lot of people thinking that it's farmland, and we have contacted the town a couple of times about it, and they've gone, specifically our neighbors have turned their yard into chickens and goats and tires laying around, and it's just a mess. And the town came in and told them that they did have to get rid of the chickens, it wasn't allowed in the neighborhood, and they said, no, these are our pets, we're not getting rid of them. Since then, they've added goats to the property, and our house now smells like a petting zoo. It's disgusting. The corner store down the street, we were talking to them earlier, and she says, oh yeah, I was walking to work, and it stinks as you walk by there, and there's a lot of people in the town that are bothered by it, but he doesn't feel he needs to get rid of it, and I'm not sure like what the next step is, seeing as the town has gone in there and told him to get rid of them, but they won't.
At some point, legal action will ensue, and I don't want to talk specifically to your situation at this point, because then that would be making it appear that I'm going to, administer some kind of litigation on behalf of the town, and that's not, I'm not going to do that right now, if you follow me. But at the same time, in other areas where we have had code violations, specific to animals or building structures are not to code, etc. There are violation notices that are written, summonses come about, and they will end up in town court at some point. And so know that we are aware of it, and more importantly, I became aware of this just this past week. I want to say late last week, and we did. I know that we have been out there. I just don't know at this point, honestly, what the.
They've been out there, I guess, a few times. I know he was out there last week.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a letter after work today to everybody, like, who can help? You know, what happens next? And obviously it was late in the day, so people probably had already gone home at that point. But it's just kind of frustrating because we live here. We have to like smell this every day, and they kind of like rub it in our faces, like, because they know that we called, they were told that we called, and you know, they're doing, now, like I said, they've put up a wall of tires to kind of like aggravate us to, well, if you write the town and tell them that we can keep our chickens, we'll take the tires down. No, you can't have that either. So.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the zoning of the property, but there, yeah, I would think so. We're aware, and at some point, and again, not specific to this, but we have no problem bringing people in from prosecutor. Mention, give me that word. Prosecutorial. Yeah. The process. So. That's all I can say at this point. But know that we're aware of it.
Okay.
And I'm sorry that you're living under those conditions. I really do. I apologize to you for that. But we're aware. We're working on it.
Ms. Luizzi,
and don't be afraid to email us. I mean, you said you wrote a letter. Are you emailing us or?
Emailed. Emailed.
That's fine.
A couple
that's fine.
of them bounced back, but I got them off of the website.
okay, so make sure one of them got to either the supervisor or myself,
Okay.
and make sure your contact information is in that email.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And you can.
and preferably the address of the code violator too.
Yeah, we have that.
Okay.
That okay?
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much. Thanks for coming today. So we're not that scary. I'm not that. We're trying. We know. And when I say this to you, it is no consolation. Don't misunderstand my words here. But when we become aware of issues like this, we try to address them very quickly. The problem sometimes is that, and I shouldn't say problem, people are protected under the law. So there's some challenges there. But we want very, very much to know what's going on. And unfortunately, sometimes, yes, it is neighbors calling about other neighbors. And when I say unfortunately, because then sometimes civil disagreements foster from those situations. So please, keep us apprised. do not hesitate to call us, to call the police department or anyone else that you may need assistance from, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else? Okay. Anyone else want to be heard tonight before we go into the resolutions? No? Okay. Ms. Marco, would you please start with Resolution 11017?
Authorize the supervisor to negotiate and enter into a memorandum of agreement with Civil Service Employees Association, CSEA, Local 1000, Town of Rotterdam Unit, Schenectady County, Local 886, to add the position and compensation referenced in Resolution 111.17 to Schedule B of the collective bargaining agreement.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Member Christou. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Bella Ferrera. Anyone on the question?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Go ahead, Mr. Blunt.
I went back and I took a look at the 2017 budget because that's always the place that you have to start with. And the position in the supervisor's office that has been budgeted for is in the amount of $43,215. This position that's ultimately going to be created, once again, as sort of a lateral in the supervisor's position, will actually be paid $45,972. It's more than a $2,700 increase that wasn't budgeted for. It's a 6.4% pay hike for the individual that ultimately is going to be appointed to this position. And every time that we do that, we either have to pay out of our contingency fund or raise taxes further. Based upon the foregoing, the next two votes for me are going to be no.
Thank you. We won't be raising taxes for it. We do have funds within the supervisor's office to make a transfer, so I'll just leave it at that. And more importantly, I'll just say this. First of all, and a couple of other resolutions forthcoming here. Ms. Martin, who has been in the position of senior typist in the supervisor's office for several years, does an outstanding job for the town. She does a lot of great work for us. She happens to be here this evening. But one of the things that we're, I just want to make my position clear, hopefully clear, for this resolution and several other ones that are forthcoming in beyond Ms. Martin's position. That over time, as technology changes and policies and procedures change, more importantly, when it comes to and I'll say it like this, when it comes to the court staff, there, in the big scheme of things, I don't think that another person could fit in that office to begin with, number one. Number two, whether we agree or disagree with, I guess I want to say, the philosophy of changing titles or improving the job descriptions and so on of different positions in the town, whether they're in town hall, at the court, or elsewhere in the town. My responsibility is also to look forward. So regardless of who's in those positions, I'm considering and thinking about what's going to happen 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, et cetera. And so when we update job duties, when we update people's pay scales to, it's not to update their pay scales just because we want to, it's because they're putting forth additional effort in their jobs that we've asked them to do. There's other training that's involved. And just to go back to the position that Ms. Martin holds in the supervisor's office, there's a lot more to that job than what her job description entails as a senior typist. So that position in the supervisor's office is vital to the operation of the town. Frankly, she's done a phenomenal job for the residents. She's done a great job for the other departments in the town and department heads here. And I think that you'd be hard pressed to find tonight we're talking about really court staff and the supervisor's office, really a group of people who are really committed to what they do. And so with that, that's the basis of my comments. As we go through this year, the remainder of this year, we're going to make some other changes as well to other positions from a job duties perspective, classifications. Will there be some payroll adjustments? There probably will be. But know that we're working within the confines of the budget that we have. Without really pointing out to Mr. Villano, where we have other resources here. For example, I'll just point this one out. We have In the comptroller's office, we budgeted another full-time payroll audit clerk position, which we have not yet hired for. So we have, 5 months worth of, 4.5 to 5 months worth of salary there, and that we have not yet utilized. So from that perspective, we're not going to break the budget with 1,000 here, 5,000. That's not going to happen, number one. Number two, again, as a supervisor, and more importantly, to do the right job for the public, for the people, I want you to know that we're looking for keeping the people that we have here that are doing a phenomenal job for the taxpayers and the residents of our community, where they are, if you will. Should they want to stay there, that's fine. If they want to move to another department, if there's a job opening, they can do so. But I want to make sure that their job duties meet what they're doing, today. Not what they did 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and that the pay is commensurate with what I believe the responsibility is for that job, and that's it.
I would just like to make it crystal clear that my comments were directed strictly to the increasing the pay of union positions. It is in no way a reflection upon the individual that's going to be appointed into that position.
And I appreciate that, and I wasn't, if you
Because
took my comments that way, I apologize, that's not what I meant by that.
Okay, because that's entirely separate issues. Whether or not the individual is qualified is not the basis of my comments.
Mr. Supervisor, I move for a question.
Oh,
Do you want to go ahead?
yes, I would like to say something about this issue too. Just as the supervisor also already mentioned, I personally know Diane Martin, and she is a very hard worker and a very good worker and a really nice person. The problem I have with some of these positions, in some situations we're making positions civil service that weren't there, which that everyone knows I've been against ever since I've been on the board. And but the other thing is with a lot of these issues, we're not given, when it comes time to vote on things, we're not given all the information until we walk in the door. And anytime that happens to me, I'm more than likely not going to vote for something. Not because I think it's right or wrong, it's because it has a smell to it. When I don't get the information until the last minute, something tells me that that's not necessarily a good thing. And so in this situation, I already know where I'm going to vote for, because I don't think that some of these positions that we want to create, if we're going to create the positions and then do away with the other positions, from what I've been hearing, that would be fine. But we need to know about these positions ahead of time, know what the position is involved, what the job duties are, where the position's going to be. We don't hear about that, but we're supposed to vote on it. So that doesn't work with me, I'm sorry.
Move for the question.
Okay, we have a motion by Member Christou, a second by Member Miller Herrera. Anyone else on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Based on the fact that this new position better defines the duties of this individual, I voted an enthusiastic yes.
Mr. Lamore?
No against the position, yes for the person. So no.
Thank you. Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
No, based on a pay increase.
Mr. Tomazoni?
Yes.
2 no, 3 yes.
Okay, Resolution 11017 passes. Resolution 11117?
Acknowledge the creation and authorize the as-needed funding of a new position, professional staff assistant, effective April 12, 2017.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Member Christou. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
No for the same reason.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Same objection, no.
Mr. Tomazoni?
Yes.
2 no, 3 yes.
Okay, Resolution 11117 passes. Resolution 11217?
Appoint Diane Martin of Rotterdam, New York to the position of professional staff assistant for the town of Rotterdam, full-time, provisional, with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $45,972.41, effective April 12, 2017.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Member Christou, second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Well, being that I couldn't stop the first two, it's like I said, it's not the person, so I'm going to say yes on this.
Mr. Valano?
Same objection, no.
Mr. Tomazoni?
Yes.
1 no, 4 yes.
Okay, resolution
You forgot this.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Abstain.
Call.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Ms. Martin, would you stand up for us?
Warren, how many years have you been working for the town of Rotterdam? How many? 10? Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thanks
service.
very much. Okay, so Resolution 11217 passes. Resolution 11317?
Appoint James E. Longo of Rotterdam, New York to the position of Director of Public Works, provisional, part-time with no compensatory time and no employee benefits at an annual salary of $30,000 per year.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Member Bola Herrera. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Christou. Anyone on the question?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Longo has been in this position for quite a while yet, but he hasn't taken a civil service test and passed it to show that he deserves to stay in that position, and now we want to give him another year. I think he needs to take that test and pass it to prove that he deserves to be in the position. I mean, that's what everyone has to do when you work for a municipality, you work for the state, you go in a position, provincially, you need to take a test to pass it, to stay in that position. So I don't think putting him in it for another year without first making sure that he is able to do the job and do it well per the state.
You know, I feel to some extent that this is very similar to the movie Casino, certainly one of my personal favorites. And in that movie, Ace was given a job, and he was the head of entertainment, and then he was the head of the culinary department, and then he was the head of something else, so that his application would never actually rise to the top of the pile, where there would be a decision whether or not that person would be continued. You know, the administration argues wholeheartedly that is not what's going on here, but based on my past understanding of this coordinator position and this director position that it's simply replacing, you know, I believe that something along those lines is in fact happening. So I plan on voting no as well.
Point of clarification, Mr. Supervisor, okay? And you know that one of my issues is the dispensation of half facts and half stories, and it's happening again, okay? First of all, we do not set the test dates. The state of New York sets the test dates. This is something which occurs often where we discuss it, we provide the real answer during executives, during the agenda meeting, and still it becomes a pontification and a grandstanding here in front of the public, which is fine, if that's what you choose to do, but tell the people all the facts.
Well, we should
The
go
test
back to
has
the
not
agenda.
been offered. The test has not been offered by the state of New York. So it's not as if Mr. Longo is refusing to take the test. The state hasn't issued the test. If the state issues a test, he'll take the test. Now, again, with the same logic as the supervisor clearly defined, that these newer descriptions better fit the duties and responsibilities, and again, the supervisor is looking 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 administrations down the road when we're long gone. Okay, and I commend the supervisor for that. Okay, thirdly, it's nothing like the movie Casino because he still has to test. The word provisional makes that clear. So it just makes sense, instead of keeping the position that he's at now, making him take that test, and then moving forward, changing the position to this, and making him take another test. Test one time. If he passes the test, he continues. If not, he doesn't meet the qualification, and out he goes. And I can say, working with Mr. Longo over the last 15 months, the man, or not 15 months, about 12 months, the man has done the job above and beyond the part-time call of duty that he has. He's available whenever needed. He follows through on what he's been assigned to, and there's no reason not to reappoint him for another year. And I hope the state issues the test so this king can be put to bed. But there's no backhanded work here doing, and I take offense to the fact that that's the way we're trying to mislead the public. It's open, it's transparent, and it's obvious what is being done here. End of story. It is obvious. You're damn right it is.
So, okay. All right, everybody calm now. All right, I'm going to try to stay calm too. So when it comes to this position as well, if you look at the code of the town of Rotterdam, or you look at the state laws, and I'm not going to go through and go through that discussion tonight. for any of these positions outside of this particular job. As we look at the code of the town of Rotterdam when it comes to Department of Public Works, planning, zoning, etc., there are individuals who have responsibility for different decision-making in the town relative to those laws. And for us to make some consistency here for the future, we need to change that title that might be in there, whether it's Public Works Coordinator or Building Inspector or a Supervisor, or whatever the terminology is that either exists or does not exist within our code. We need to update our code to match today's duties, and again, moving forward. More importantly, all of these folks that are employed by the town are really employees at will. In other words, they can come and go as they please from a job perspective. If 5 months from now or 5 years from now, whatever the case may be, someone decides to go for a different position or a different job, the news then can be, for the town is, well, what position are we going to post? And in the past, this particular position has really been used as a political position, and don't misinterpret me when I say that. There are people who have served with distinction in the role, and they've over time done a decent job for whatever happened to be happening in the town from a development perspective, etc. As we look forward to more development, and particularly with the plans that we have, some of which we talked about this evening during the agenda meeting, and we've spoken in the past at other town board meetings and agenda meetings ourselves as a board, that we have an expectation that more development's coming to the town. So I want to ensure that, again, in the future, the town board has titles and job descriptions that match the expertise and the qualifications of the people that future town boards may want to bring into our community to work for the benefit of the people of our community. And that's it. If you want to make the inference that somehow we have the time to, let's just leave it as Public Works Coordinator, and when Jim Longo or whomever else may be in that job decides to retire or do whatever, that some future board's going to take upon itself the cleanup of our code or the cleanup of job descriptions in the town. It's not going to happen. So my expectation is that as a board, we're going to talk about these things, whether we have agreement or not, or it doesn't. When I say it this way, don't misinterpret me. I want agreement, but if we don't have it for all 5 of us, that's fine. But this is the direction in which I would like us to go, and I believe that it behooves the residents and the taxpayers of the town that we move in this direction, to professionalize more and more of our positions in the town. Not to say that the people that are there are not professional, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we can then open up the door, if you will, when those people retire that are in those positions, when people move to different jobs in our town or elsewhere, that we have the mechanism in place with which we can replace that person with a qualified professional individual. Okay, I think I beat that one pretty well. So 113-17, we have a motion by member Miller Herrera and a second by member Christou. May I have a roll call, please, Ms. Marco?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
No.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Villano?
No.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
2 no, 3 yes.
Okay, resolution 113-17 passes. Resolution 114-17.
Appoint Megan Newhouse of Rotterdam, New York to the position of Deputy Court Clerk for the Town of Rotterdam Justice Court, full-time, provisional with employee benefits at an annual salary of $37,271.50, effective April 3rd, 2017.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by member Christou, second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, second by member Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Go ahead.
This one, what I'd like to say goes for 114 through 117. When a while back they decided that they were going to have an extra fee added on for, anytime someone gets a ticket, some kind of ticket, and that money was going towards the Justice Department, which is fine. But what they said, the reasoning why they wanted to do that, because they needed to expand the building, they needed to do all this stuff. Now, if they want to use that money, or some of that money, for the employees, okay, as long as it's not going to cost us anymore, because that's their revenue. But I hope they're not gonna come back to us for money to expand it if they're using it for this purpose. Because that's not the purpose they said they wanted it for.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. I have spoken to Judge Litz about this several years ago when it was a 2-2 board. On multiple occasions, I've spoken to Judge Litz about the restructuring of the town court when it came up near the end of last year. I've spoken during town boards on several occasions, and all of my notes are out there. The people that work for Rotterdam Town Court are fantastic employees. I've had the pleasure of working with them not only as a board member, but also as an attorney who's appeared before that court. I could not be happier with the team that they've put together, nor the quality of their work. My fundamental adversity is not whether any of these individuals deserve a job, because they all certainly do, and they've earned that position. Fundamentally against the restructuring of the court itself. The fee, my notes are about that as well. I've made it known why I believe these things. I believe that judges should be able to appoint confidential clerks directly. I am adverse to the expansion of the CSEA union or any public union whatsoever. This is not a reflection on any of them, just like it wasn't a reflection on an individual who was appointed earlier tonight, because she has incredible qualifications as well. However, despite how I feel about any single or group of 5 individuals, I also can't stray from my philosophy of how a court should, in fact, be structured. We are blessed with fantastic judges in this town. We are equally blessed with court clerks that work under those judges. Unfortunately, that isn't enough for me to change my philosophy on the court system.
Okay, anyone else on 114? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes, only because of the fact that that new fee is gonna be paying for it.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Whether there's a fee or not, it's the structure of the court that I oppose. No.
Mr. Tomazone?
Yes.
1 no, 4 yes.
Okay, resolution 114-17 passes. And Megan, would you just stand up for us to let everybody see you? Thank you very much. Okay, resolution 115-17.
Appoint Maria DeNeo of Rotterdam, New York, to the position of Deputy Court Clerk for the Town of Rotterdam Justice Court, full-time, provisional, with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $38,201.34, effective April 3rd, 2017.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by member Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by member Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes, but for the exact same reason.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
No.
Mr. Tomazone?
Yes.
4 yes, 1
Okay,
no.
resolution 115-17 passes. Maria, you have to stand up. Okay, resolution 115-17 passes. Resolution 116-17.
Appoint Laurel Komazinski of Rotterdam, New York, to the position of Court Clerk 1 for the Town of Rotterdam Justice Court, full-time, provisional, with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $44,844.43, effective April 3rd, 2017.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by member Christo, second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, second by member Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes, because the extra fee money pays for it.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
No.
Mr. Tomazone?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, resolution 116-17 passes. Laurel? Thank you very much. Okay, 116-17 passes again. 117-17.
Appoint Teresa D'Alessandro and Terry Lupi of Rotterdam, New York, to the position of Court Clerk 1 for the Town of Rotterdam Justice Court, full-time, provisional, with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $45,721.63.
Effective.
Oh, I'm sorry, effective April 3rd, 2017.
Thank you very much. No worries. Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by member Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by member Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes, for the exact same reasons previously mentioned.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
No.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, resolution 117 passes. Ladies, would you please stand up for us?
All of you, thank you for everything you do in that department. Appreciate it very much.
Sorry we can't build you a wing.
Or another floor.
Yeah.
We're used to this, that's why we sit so close.
Oh, boy. You're not holding hands too there, are you? No,
you never remember.
All right, well, it's all good. Okay, thank you. 11717. Thank you very much, ladies. 11717?
Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam agrees to modify its regular 2017 meeting schedule. The Rotterdam Town Board agenda session and meeting scheduled for Wednesday, August 23rd, 2017 at 5:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. will be held on Wednesday, August 9th, 2017 at 5:30 p.m. and 7 p.m.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Member Christou, a second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Larmore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
Yay, 5 yes.
Okay, resolution 11817 passes. Resolution 11917?
Authorize the supervisor to accept funds from the New York Rising Projects for the New York Flood Protections Water Well System Improvements Project in the amount of $70,860.50.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, a motion by Member Larmore. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Valano. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 11917 passes. Resolution 12017?
Authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with John M. McDonald Engineering Services located at 7 South Church Street, Schenectady, New York, 12305, for professional engineering services for the Great Flats Nature Trail Supplemental Environmental Project in an amount not to exceed $15,800.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Member Valano. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Larmore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 12017 passes. Resolution 12117?
Authorize the supervisor to enter an agreement with Empire Engineering PLLC located at 1982 Duanesburg Road, Duanesburg, New York, 12056. For 121. For professional services associated with the reconstruction of basketball courts at Memorial, Carmen and Eunice O. Esposito Park, and the reconstruction of basketball courts at Memorial, Carmen and Eunice O. Esposito Park in the town of Rotterdam, and hereby authorizes the appropriation of parkland fees in an amount not to exceed $1,980, and hereby modifies the general fund budget by increasing estimated revenues A510 and the revenue account entitled Parkland Fees A2001.200100 by $1,980, and increasing appropriations A960 and the subsidiary account entitled Parks Improvements A7110.4153 by $1,980 for payment of services to Empire Engineering PLLC.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Member Christou. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Valano. Anyone on the question?
I believe this is for resurfacing basketball courts.
Yes, it's actually not resurfacing. It's more than that, actually.
Reconstruction.
And
Reconstruction.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the next, 126. Anyone else on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 12117 passes. Resolution 12217?
Authorize the comptroller to accept funds from the general liability insurance carrier for the police vehicle that was deemed to be totaled and to make the necessary budget amendments to the 2017 budget to allow for the payment processing to the vendor to purchase a new police vehicle in the amount of $11,993.48.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Member Valano. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Member Christou. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 12217 passes. Resolution 12317.
The Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam accepts an offer from Shelter Point Insurance Company, 600 Northern Boulevard, Suite 310, Great Neck, New York, 11021, to provide disability insurance coverage for 2017 based on the lowest responsible bid presented to the town. The town supervisor is authorized to sign all documents necessary to effectuate and accept the insurance coverage.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by member Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by member Valano. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Mark, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Hesitantly, yes, because the bid is up a lot more than it was the previous year.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 12317 passes. Resolution 12417.
The Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam hereby authorizes the appropriation of parkland fees in an amount not to exceed $39,026.15, and hereby modifies the general fund budget by increasing estimated revenues A510 and the revenue account entitled Parkland Fees A2001.200100 by $39,026.15, and increasing appropriations A960 in the subsidiary account entitled Parks Improvements A7110, excuse me, .4153 by the $39,026.15 for equipment replacement at Kiwanis, Westina, Pansy, Memorial, Jaraca, Faro, Uniso Esposito, Carmen, Boxwood Park, and Veterans Memorial at Town Hall.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by member Christo. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, second by member Larmore. And on the question, I would like to mention that our Parks Committee, which is volunteers from the community, and Roz is here tonight. Who else is here from that committee? Well, she left, right? Andrea was here. She left. But earlier this year, they had given us or late last year, given us a park analysis is what I like to call it, and telling us what it is that we lack in different parks. We then ourselves, our parks employees, and others in the town really went through the parks, and so there are various purchases that are being made for all the different parks in town, and from everything from just to let people know, from swings to benches, bleachers, grills, picnic tables that are both the ADA compliant and others that are just regular picnic tables, if you will, and some other amenities are forthcoming that I can't talk about right now, but we're working with some community groups here to do some other work in the town and our parks, and so we'll be talking about that. I'll let you know about that soon.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, no, thank you for your work too, by the committee. So, and I want to thank the board, as well for recognizing that, the importance of our parks, and the other resolution that's coming up here on the basketball course we'll talk about in a moment. But we have a motion by member Christo, second by member Larmore. Anyone else on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 12417 passes. Resolution 12517.
Authorize the DB Law Firm to enter into stipulation of settlement on behalf of the Town of Rotterdam in the matter of Rotterdam Associates LLC versus Town of Rotterdam, ETAL, index numbers 2013-1753, 2015-1907, and 2016-1726. Article 7 of the Real Property Tax Certiorari Proceedings for the tax years 2013, 2015, and 2016.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by member Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by member Miller Herrera. And anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
I guess yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 12517 passes. Resolution 12617.
Issue a request for bids, RFP, for basketball court reconstruction at Memorial Park, Uniso Esposito Park, and Carmen Park, which will be opened on Monday, May 1st, 2017 at 11 a.m.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make the motion. I also want to acknowledge that we discovered there was a typographical error during the agenda meeting. The word Esposito was left out, and I believe the clerk made the proper correction, and we'll make it in the final minutes.
Thank you. Okay, may I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Member Longmore. And on the question, all three basketball courts in the larger part of the town, if you will, if you've been to those basketball courts, you can see that each one of them has really not had any major work done to it probably since they were constructed. More importantly, they're safe enough to bounce a basketball on, but probably not safe enough to run up and down to the other net. So we are putting the bid specs, if you will, call for two different potential bids to come in. So a respondent can look at the basketball courts and talk about reconstruction of everything. Basically, we are going to tear everything out that's there and put in a new surface, new basketball poles and everything. So all three of the basketball courts will be completely redone. This is not a coating or basically putting another top to what's there. It can't be done because some of those areas on those courts are depressed in the earth, and they all have to be dug out to find out what's causing that. And furthermore, the other part of this RFP is to give us another bid, if you will, whereby town staff employees can assist in basically tearing everything out first, and then having whomever is responding again just basically coming in with a new basketball court and again the poles, etc. So obviously we're doing that for two reasons. One is to see what kind of bids we get and see if we can get this work accomplished in a short period of time. But more importantly, we don't know what the weather's going to be. We don't know how things are going to transpire this year. So if we have an option of having our town workforce assist in the demolition and removal of what's there, and the time is there for them to do it, and the staff is there, and the weather cooperates, hopefully we can get a better price for us to use in our parkland funds. And all these parkland funds, again, I know I sound like a broken record when I mention this, but I think it deserves to be mentioned time and again, is that the parkland funds that are here are coming to us through development in the town. Every time a new development comes in, there is a fee per unit that's charged. Those hundreds of dollars per unit go into parkland funds, and those parkland funds can only be utilized for the purchase of parklands, the rehabilitation, or if you will, or changes that need to be done in our parks. So again, we have an aggressive schedule for this year for a lot of improvements to our parks, and I want to thank ahead of time our town staff and Jim Longo and Highway Superintendent Lamora and others in the town for working together and finding ways to get a lot of work again accomplished in a short period of time. So we have a motion by Member Christman, a second by Member Larmore. Rick, did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something on that. I'm not going to go back and tell you when it was, but just say when I was a kid, they used to have a lot of the basketball courts were in fantastic shape at all the different major parks, and they used to have some great high school summer league basketball leagues, and people would come from all over the area to watch these leagues, and they would play from different teams from all the different high schools in the area would come and play, and it was fantastic. It was a lot of fun, and I remember as a kid just being really beside myself, being able to sit and watch how much talent there was. And I think it'd be a great addition to our town to be able to have that influx of, if we could get something like that going again and have that influx. It's just like some of the different, I know there used to be like a softball league over on 146, and people would come there, stop and pull over the side of the road to watch it. They didn't know anybody there, but it was something fun to do. And different things like that is a good addition to our town.
And I'm hopeful you're going to see that, because I have spoken with, let's put it this way, a couple of institutions in the town to start up that kind of activity again this year. So let's cross our fingers and hope that we can get some folks to organize that. So thanks for bringing that up. Anyone else? Okay, Ms. Markle, would you call the roll on 12617, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 12617 passes. Resolution 12717.
Issue a request for bids, RFP, for tennis courts repair, resurface at the Eunice O. Esposito Park and Juraca Park, which will be opened on Monday, May 1st, 2017 at 11:15 a.m.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Supervisor.
Motion.
And again, the word Esposito was left out, and we made that notification during the agenda meeting, and the town clerk will make the proper correction.
Thank you. Okay, motion by Member Christo. Is there a second, please?
I will second it. I do have something to mention.
Okay, so, okay, we have a second by, I think Miller Herrera beat you to it. Do you want to give it up?
Oh, you have it.
Okay, great. So you're on for this one, assuming that. So we have a motion by Member Christo and a second by Member Miller Herrera. And on the question, same thing, that the tennis courts haven't been repaired or resurfaced in many, many years. So, I'm just crossing my fingers that we time things right here and get some decent bids in to get that work accomplished at those two parks as well. I can tell you that one of the things when I go to different places in town with people that might say, well, geez, he looks a little bit familiar, and I just say hello, and they say hello, it's good. But when I go to the parks and people are playing basketball or they're playing tennis, and they know who I am, they immediately want to point out where all the problems are, which is good. Don't misinterpret me when I say that. But when are you going to get it done? When are you going to get it done? When are you going to get it done? Even if it's in April, you're there on a nice day just to check things out because it's clear enough, or in March, and then it snows again, then they're not playing. But it's a good thing that we have people that are using, what I'm getting at is that are using these courts. It's not a situation where we're just doing it because we want to make it look good. People are using them all the time. And the tennis courts in particular are probably more utilized than people expect. And for us, one of the reasons why we probably don't get as much use of those courts is because of their shape, the disrepair that they're in. So with this, I think you'll see, Rick, what you were saying earlier, I believe what will happen is just organically people will start to use them more, they'll get together more, they'll form their own neighborhood leagues or whatever, and that's good too, but we are looking at a more, I guess I want to say formal arrangement for those, once we get all this work done, for people to really utilize them in a much more dynamic way, to your point, so that they enjoy themselves there, and people can go there and bring in their lawn chair and watch what's going on. So thanks very much for for that. So anyone else on the question?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. One point I just wanted to bring up about that, I'm just wondering if we could get a better deal if we incorporated both of these together, because a lot of times we're doing the blacktop or whatever means they're doing. A lot of times if they have, in different situations, what they have left over, they would rather spend that doing more than just having to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes if we did them both, I would say do the basketball courts first, but I mean, if we could do them from the same company, we could probably get a lot better deal.
So with the tennis court, the material that's utilized there is very different.
Oh, it's different material.
Very different material. And there are only certain companies that actually do it. They are different. I appreciate your comments. That's why we split the two out this way. So again, anyone else on the question, 12717? Okay, Ms. Markle, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 12717 passes. Resolution 12817?
Authorize comptroller to declare certain equipment obsolete.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Member Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Larmore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Markle, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, 12817 passes. Resolution 12917?
Accept town clerk's report for the month of March 2017.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Member Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Markle, would you call the roll?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
So Resolution 129-17 passes. Resolution 130-17.
Authorize budget transfers by the town controller to various accounts for 2017.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Member Christie. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Member Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. I've noticed on quite a few of the transfers, we're transferring money from water to sewer, sewer to water. I know a lot of the people work within both, but they are in individual tax bases, and from what I've read in the past, you're not supposed to mix those. So I'm going to be voting no, just because I'm not going to put a yes on a vote that I think isn't correct. So,
Anyone else? Just to your comments, when we've had several water breaks, sewer break, and so what happens is when the highway department and other employees are working on those infrastructure and those emergencies, what happens is we have to then reimburse the highway fund or the general fund, if you will, for those individuals' time that they've utilized in the repair of a water break or a sewer break, et cetera. So that's all that's going on here. It's completely above board, completely legal. The state comptroller's office has given us guidance on this, in particular in the last couple of years, and with their findings also. When I say their findings, their audit that the state comptroller completed last year, which told us that we're doing it properly and correctly. So we have a motion by Member Christou and a second by Member Miller Herrera. Anyone else on the question?
yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Go ahead.
The audit that we're mentioning, we asked for the audit. The audit didn't audit the time frame we asked for or the topic we asked for. So I don't know what the audit was on something, but it wasn't what we asked for.
We don't make those determinations. Mr.
State
Palmer.
Comptroller's
The
Office.
state comptroller makes those determinations.
It was on water meter reading.
It wasn't meter reading, actually, it was on their water rack connections. Okay, so, Ms. Mark, would you call the roll on 130-17, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
No.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, resolution 130-17 passes. Under committee reports, I'd just like to mention, I've received a couple of inquiries. Folks get these mailers from different companies, American Water Resources of New York, or I'm not even sure what the name of this one is. Doesn't even really say. It may say somewhere in the very fine print. However, worrying about how it is that you are looking for home repairs or grants that might be available to you as a homeowner, call this number. Looking at insuring your water or sewer line into your home, that kind of thing. The town of Rotterdam has nothing to do with these. These are companies or insurance or some kind of service that you can purchase. Frankly, I'm not going to make any other statements other than caveat emptor, buyer beware, just look very closely. I mean, if it's something like this that's coming in the mail to you, please don't just send in the money. Speak to someone in the know that may be a plumber, that may be
Well, more importantly,
an attorney, someone who would give you the proper guidance on something like this. This is not in no way, sometimes they mention the town or they mention the state in a lot of these flyers to have the appearance that they are, and I'm not saying that they're illegitimate, don't misinterpret, but at the same time that they have some kind of authority on behalf of a municipal authority or the state department. That's not the case. So just please be careful at what you're giving out there.
If I may, the only thing I would say is, if you look at the way it's addressed, you can tell it went out to 1 million people, number one. Number two, be very leery of the words you are eligible for, you have qualified for, and you already get insurance through someone you probably know and trust for your home. So that's where you take these documents, and most likely you could say, well, geez, if you want that, we can add a rider to your policy for $25 a year, or whatever it might be. If it's coming through the mail and it says you're eligible for it, and if it sounds too good to be true, most likely it is.
Yeah. Or I would say go down and visit Evan at Tom's Diner. He'll tell you what to do. Shouldn't have said that, I'll probably get in trouble. Okay, anyone else for any committee reports or comments this evening?
Move for adjournment, Mr. Supervisor.
That was quick. I noticed you both quicker towards the end, too.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by member Christie and a second by member Larmore for adjournment. Let's just do a quick, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, any opposed? Okay, thank you all this evening for coming. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.